We have breaking news developments tonight in the killing of Trayvon Martin. A new witness has emerged who saw much of what took place, a now valuable witness. We also have what seems to be developing as the family story of why George Zimmerman pulled the trigger in his decision to shoot and kill Trayvon Martin. That's coming up.
We know that if we weren't sitting here talking about George shooting Trayvon, we'd be talking about Trayvon shooting George.
George was trying to get his head off of the concrete, trying to move with Trayvon on him into the grass. In doing so, his firearm was shown. Trayvon Martin said something to the effect of, "You're going to die now, or you're going to die tonight."
George was out of breath. He was barely conscious. His last thing he remembers doing was moving his head from the concrete to the grass so that if he was banged one more time, he wouldn't be, wearing diapers for the rest of his life and being spoon-fed by his brother. And there would have been George dead.
We're joined now on the phone by a paramedic, a New York paramedic, Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith, you've listened to this evidence and this discussion about banging George Zimmerman's head against the pavement. What would you expect to find as a paramedic arriving on a scene with that kind of injury?
With any sort of head trauma like that, I mean, you're going to see possibly an altered level of consciousness. You're going to see possibly some vomiting. You might have a altered mentation. Person might not be aware of their surroundings.
Now, if he was very bloodied at the scene, when you see this video, if he was very bloodied with a broken nose, bloody nose, if he'd fired a shot where there could have been blood splattered on him, would you have, as a paramedic, have been able to clean him up so that he would look absolutely flawless on this videotape?
The first thing that we do is we control any sort of major bleeding. And then if somebody has a suspected head injury, what you would do is you would perform a spinal immobilization typically and bring the person to the hospital, because it could be a closed head injury, it could be a concussion, it could possibly result in intracranial pressure, which leads to possibly death. And I mean, just watch the video, I was kind of amazed that this individual didn't go to the hospital for an evaluation.
Brandon Smith, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Charles Blow, Brent Lauer conducted a great interview today with George Zimmerman's lawyer, the guy who failed to show up here, and Matt asked all the questions I wanted to ask and got some of the answers, but mostly no answers. For example, Matt said to him, Mr. Zimmerman has said he was treated for a broken nose. Wouldn't he have x-rays that show the nose is broken? Wouldn't he have his own records of how he was treated? And the lawyer says, I'm not going to litigate this case in the media. In other words, the lawyer is asked, do you possess medical records of this trip you people seem to be suggesting occurred the day after to a hospital or a doctor? Can you show us anything? The lawyer had nothing to show.
Right. But see, here's the thing. Everybody's tired. Get this guy charged, get this guy into a courtroom so that we can subpoena all the records. If you have a broken nose, that broken nose will show up 2 years from now. If all that sort of thing, you'll find out. If they took pictures, if he has lacerations, we would know that. If there is grass stains on, which we don't see, unless they have a giant Tide stain stick in the back of that cruiser to get rid of all that grass stain, we should see it. We need to see this in a courtroom. And I am still trying to figure out what is the burden at which they will say, we have enough. We don't have to have conclusive evidence that none of it contradicts our case. We just have to have enough that supports our case to bring this before a jury. And I do not understand how we don't have enough at this point. Are we waiting for some sort of Lazarus moment where we go to the graveyard and ask this boy to spring up out of the grave and come testify in his own? Going to happen? But we have enough evidence just based on what we've seen so far. We don't even need to know whether or not he's the only person screaming. It is completely possible that more than one person screams. Somebody can scream to say, help me keep this kid down. Somebody can scream when the guy pulls out a gun and says, you know, please don't shoot me. And both people could be hearing their loved one. We don't have to have that completely resolved. We just have to say there is enough ambiguity here. There's enough contradiction here that we need to let a jury of his peers examine the evidence on the cross-examination. That's it.
We're going to take a quick break here. Eugene, before we go, what Charles is pointing out is there's a difference between what is probable cause and what is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. You as a cop worked with trying to find probable cause. That was your job. As a prosecutor, you were trying to find probable cause and evaluate whether you had proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And it seems to be that proof beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard that was being used so far in this case to even get any process going. We've got to leave it there. We're going to come right back with more on the killing of Trayvon Martin.